We begin this morning with new reporting from Axios on the toll gun violence continues to take on American lives. According to the Gun Violence Archive, 2023 is shaping up to be a record year with an average of 2 mass shootings a day. Let's break it down. That would be Wayne LaPierre, the head of the National Rifle Association, on the right, and I consider him personally responsible for all these deaths. Let's break it down, shall we? The United States has seen an average of 2 mass shootings every day for a running total of 419 so far this year. More than 25,000 people have died from gun violence this year. I don't want to hear about suicides. Suicide is gun violence. An average of 118 deaths per day. On average, 5 of those deaths are under the age of 17. Let's continue. More than 22,000 people have been injured by gunshots so far in 2023. 400 children have been injured by guns this year so far. 2,400 teens injured by guns this year so far. CBS reports that gun violence in America costs more than $1 billion in medical bills each year. Gunshots, on average, cost each victim $10,000. It's $10,000 to treat a gunshot victim. In the past 2 weeks, Speaker Kevin McCarthy has waffled on whether he would agree on introducing articles of impeachment against Joe Biden because of the business dealings of the president's unelected son, Hunter Biden. I don't know if you know this, Republicans, but we don't put presidential sons to a vote. Now, if your eyes glaze over when it comes to the investigation of Hunter Biden, don't worry. You are supposed to be confused. That's the game plan for the Republicans. It's like the Benghazi hearings with Hillary. Remember those back in, 2016? Nobody could explain what exactly Hillary supposedly did wrong with Benghazi. But Kevin McCarthy was quoted as saying, "We accomplished in knocking her poll numbers down." And when you talk to Republicans privately about this Burisma hoax, and that's what it is, there was the Benghazi hoax, and this is the Burisma hoax. When you ask Republicans secretly what this is about, it's politics. It's bringing down Joe Biden's poll numbers because there's no there. Nobody could explain what Hillary supposedly did wrong with Benghazi. And with Hunter Biden and the Burisma hoax, the charges against Joe Biden are not worth dignifying. Now, I didn't vote for Joe Biden in the primaries. I voted for him in the general election. I'm a Bernie guy. I'm voting for Joe Biden. I have no choice. What the Republicans are doing, because the Republicans are fascists, what the Republicans are doing with the Burisma hoax is creating a lot of smoke without any fire. Most Americans, including you and me, really can't be bothered to pay attention to the Burisma hoax. And low information voters who are on the fence, they see some smoke and they think, maybe there's fire. There's no fire here. None. Over the weekend, Donald Trump threatened Republicans during his rally in Erie, Pennsylvania. He warned Republicans, especially in Congress, if they don't start prosecuting Biden, if they don't start impeaching him, he's going to start primary challenges on any Republican members of Congress who don't get on board the impeach Joe Biden bandwagon. Trump has been trying to dig up dirt on Hunter Biden since right before his first impeachment back in 2019. If you remember, he held up delivery of weapons to Ukraine unless President Zelensky agreed to help Rudy Giuliani. Yes, Rudy Giuliani. Help Rudy Giuliani dig up dirt on Hunter Biden's business dealing with Burisma. That would be Burisma, a Ukrainian natural gas producer, a bigger natural gas producer than Rudy Giuliani. And Burisma put Hunter Biden on its board of directors back in 2014 while Hunter's daddy was vice president under Obama. And that was a little unseemly, but not illegal. Burisma has been the subject of several criminal investigations around the world, mostly for money laundering and bribery. Republicans, they know there's never going to be a criminal investigation here in the United States when it comes to Hunter Biden and Burisma because, like I said, there's no there there. This is all political. The Republicans want to convince enough voters that Burisma, through Hunter Biden, transferred $5 million in bribes to Joe Biden in return for then Vice President Joe Biden visiting Ukraine and then pressuring the country to fire this guy. This would be Viktor Shokin, who was Ukraine's prosecutor general. Now, none of this is true. It doesn't have to be true because it's never going to go to trial, right? So you can just throw dirt in the eyes of the American voter, and some of them will think something criminal happened. Donald, if something criminal happened vis-a-vis Joe Biden and Viktor Shokin, who was fired as Ukraine's prosecutor general, if something criminal had happened, Donald Trump had 4 years as president to get his Justice Department on this. But there was no there, which is why he brought in Rudy Giuliani to investigate. Not working for the government, working for Donald Trump for free. When you can't find anyone in the entire Justice Department willing to prove voter fraud in 2020, you bring in Rudy Giuliani. Can't find anyone in the Justice Department to prosecute Hunter Biden for his ties to Burisma, bring in Rudy Giuliani. And that's exactly what Donald Trump did. He had 4 years as president to lock Hunter Biden up. But there was nothing there with Burisma. The Attorney General, Bill Barr, he would have prosecuted. He loved doing Donald Trump's dirty work within reason. No there. This is a hoax. Burisma is a hoax. It's politics, which is why you have Republican committee chairman, investigating Hunter and never a special prosecutor. This all started with Rudy Giuliani, and anything that starts with Rudy Giuliani can come to no good. It is all fake. Rudy Giuliani has been the point man on Hunter Biden. He's not working for the government. He's working for then President Donald Trump, freelancing, not getting paid. Rudy was sent to Ukraine to dig up political dirt on Hunter Biden, not criminal dirt, political dirt. In fact, in the call that got him impeached, when Donald Trump was speaking to Zelensky and saying, I want to give you the weapons that have been authorized, but first you got to do me a favor. We need dirt on Hunter Biden. So Rudy was off in Ukraine looking for dirt. And it's not like Attorney General Bill Barr was waiting anxiously to discover what Rudy Giuliani was going to discover in Kiev, right? The entire Justice Department, Trump's entire Justice Department, knew Rudy Giuliani is a hopeless alcoholic, desperate for both attention and money. It was Rudy Giuliani who got his hands on Hunter Biden's laptop and peddled the contents to the New York Post right before the 2020 election. And he got his hands on that laptop, resulting in a series of chain of custody issues. Because Rudy's a complete incompetent, there were so many chain of custody issues, automatically it made the laptop impossible to be entered in a court of law as evidence. But this was never ever about a criminal prosecution. This was about humiliating Hunter Biden and throwing dirt in the eyes of the voters to make them think that Joe Biden is as corrupt as Donald Trump, which is impossible. Rudy was brought in to convince just enough American voters that there's fire inside all that smoke. There wasn't. It was just smoke. So the phony narrative, the hoax that Republicans are pushing to get Trump elected and keep him out of prison, because Trump knows the only thing that's going to keep him out of prison is getting reelected. He's forcing loyal Republicans to push this narrative on the American people. So they say, you know what? Biden's corrupt too. I'm going to stay home on election day, or I'm stupid, I'm going to vote for Trump. Again, this is Viktor Shokin. He was the top prosecutor in Ukraine back in 2016 when then Vice President Joe Biden visited Ukraine with his son, Hunter. Probably not a good idea to have brought his son along with him. These are the facts. Biden was doing President Obama's bidding, as well as the International Monetary Fund's bidding, when he told then Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko to fire Shokin. Okay, Viktor Shokin, the top prosecutor, Joe Biden, flies to Ukraine in 2016 and says to then Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, you got to fire your top prosecutor. And if you don't, we will withhold $1 billion in loan guarantees. The reason Biden, Obama, and the entire West wanted Shokin fired is because Ukraine is an incredibly corrupt country, almost as corrupt as Russia. And America wanted to do business with Ukraine, but they didn't want to do business with an incredibly corrupt Ukraine, and they wanted a prosecutor to clean the country up. Biden, the IMF, Obama insisted that Shokin be fired because he was perceived as a puppet of the ex-president of Ukraine, who was perceived as a puppet of Putin. You know, kind of like Trump and the entire Republican Party are puppets of Putin. So Shokin was fired in order to bring in someone who would crack down on the corruption in Ukraine. But the political narrative that Rudy Giuliani peddled is that then Vice President Joe Biden ordered the firing of Shokin, the top prosecutor in Ukraine. He ordered the firing of Shokin because Biden was trying to cover up for the crimes, for the imaginary crimes committed by Hunter. He was trying to protect Burisma, the Ukrainian gas producer who put Hunter on their board of directors. He fired Shokin because he didn't want Hunter and Burisma to be prosecuted for crimes like bribery and money laundering. That's Rudy Giuliani's demented version of events. That comes from Trump's mind and Rudy's mind, and it's being forced upon loyal Republicans in the House to push this lie, the Burisma hoax. Because the truth is that firing Shokin was bad for Hunter Biden. It was bad for Burisma because Shokin, Viktor Shokin, the top prosecutor, wasn't prosecuting Burisma. The truth is Shokin was refusing to prosecute Burisma because it had connections to the former president of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych, who, like I said, was a Putin puppet. Viktor Yanukovych ended up running to Russia after the Maidan Revolution, taking along with him untold riches. In 2016, Joe Biden flew to Ukraine as Obama's vice president and said, we want a prosecutor to root out corruption, which was not good for Burisma. But in the Republican playbook, that doesn't matter. This is about politics. not crimes, the appearance of a crime. This is about getting Donald Trump reelected so he, the real criminal, doesn't go to prison because he will control the FBI and the Justice Department. Now, Republicans know that you and I can't keep any of these names straight. They know that. The same thing with Benghazi. They knew it went in one ear and out the other. That's what they bank on. This is all about creating smoke, creating a suggestion of corruption. They're not about to prosecute. This is about winning elections, to paint Joe Biden as a crime boss, so some voters will throw up their hands saying, it's so confusing. I guess they're all corrupt. Both sides do it. No. Both sides don't do it. Let me repeat. Both sides don't do it. Republicans are way more corrupt than the Democrats. And Republicans are fascists. Democrats are hypocrites. Democrats are hypocrites. They skirt the law, but they don't violate the law. Republicans break the law, plus they're fascists and they're bigots. Again, I'm not saying Democrats aren't corrupt, but not on the scale that we see with Republicans, especially Donald Trump. But if you want to be intellectually lazy, like Joe Rogan, I was watching him today with Jim Gaffigan, and it's faux intellectualism. It's, when you say, or Jimmy Dore, hey, both sides do it. No, that's how charlatans present themselves as open-minded when they say both sides are corrupt. Anyone who says both sides are corrupt, it means they're Republicans. Anybody in this day and age who says both sides are corrupt, it means you're a Republican, but you don't want to admit it. So the House Judiciary Committee, controlled by Republicans, it's under the leadership of Jim Jordan, who went to law school but was too stupid, couldn't pass the bar exam, so he's never been allowed to practice law. Yet he's the Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Republican Jim Jordan, who is too stupid to pass the bar, even though he went to law school. He's holding nonstop hearings into this so-called Biden crime family. That's what they call it now. They call it the Biden crime family. And that's Jim Jordan, who heads the House Judiciary Committee, and House Oversight is chaired by Republican James Comer, and they are trying to create a phony paper trail that proves Joe Biden is running a criminal enterprise through his crack-addicted alcoholic son. And on Monday, behind closed doors, the House Oversight Committee interviewed their star witness. It was this guy, Devon Archer. And it blew up completely in the Republican Party's face, as it often does. So they have to lie and spin it, but it was a disaster. Once again, they failed to prove, they couldn't prove anything with Benghazi, and they can't prove anything with Burisma, so they spin and they lie, banking on stupid Americans to figure something must be there with Burisma. There's nothing. They have nothing. Devon Archer, to refresh your memory, was Hunter Biden's business partner. He, too, served on the board of Burisma alongside Hunter Biden. Now, these are not noble guys. Devon Archer was a classmate of John Kerry's stepson. I believe it's Christopher Hines. They met at Yale. And so Devon Archer, Christopher Hines, and Joe Biden's son, Hunter, opened an investment firm, I think, in 2009. And yes, it stinks to high heaven. It stinks. But none of it is illegal. It should be, but none of it's illegal. there's no crime. Although Devon Archer did end up going to prison for defrauding a Native American tribe in 2014 by tricking them into issuing development bonds and then keeping roughly $43 million of the proceeds for himself. Bad guy. Bad guy. Ripping somebody off for $43 million makes you a bad guy. Ripping off Native American tribes makes you even worse of a person. Bad guy. And so is Hunter Biden. I wouldn't vote for Hunter Biden if they had elections for presidential sons. Wouldn't vote for Hunter. Bad guy. Damaged. Guns. Crack cocaine. I think he owed $1 million in taxes. He doesn't pay child support. He is a deeply troubled, deeply troubled and flawed individual who operates on the margins, right? But he's not a criminal, not the kind of criminal the Republicans wish he were. He's not that kind of criminal. There's nothing to see here when it comes to the Joe Biden, Hunter Biden connection. No crime. It's just smoke. A father is not responsible for his adult son's criminal behavior. And as we're saying, yeah, Hunter violated the law with his taxes and the crack and the guns that he lied when he filled out a permit to buy a gun. The only crime that Joe Biden committed is the crime that every loving father commits, and that's you love your troubled son no matter what. And you love him so much you make mistakes trying to help him. There's no easy answer in dealing with a son who's an addict. Nobody gets it right. You make mistakes. But if you've heard the messages that Joe Biden has left for Hunter that nobody should have ever heard, but you heard that Joe Biden genuinely loves his son, and his heart was breaking. Hunter Biden clearly needs a lot of help, okay? His life has already been destroyed. Why keep pursuing this? Why? The Republicans will destroy Hunter Biden if it means getting Donald Trump reelected and keeping him out of prison. So, what did star witness Devon Archer reveal during closed-door testimony on Monday? This was the big star witness that was going to blow the Biden crime family wide open. Well, what we learned is what we knew all along, that when it came to Burisma, Hunter was selling the illusion of access to his father. According to Monday's closed-door testimony, occasionally Hunter Biden would be in a business meeting, and he would call his unsuspecting father, and he would put Joe on the speakerphone. And according to the testimony, roughly 20 times over a 10-year period, this is according to Devon Archer, twice a year, Hunter Biden would be in a meeting and he'd call his dad, put him on the speakerphone, and they'd discuss the weather, the kids. But that created the illusion of access to Joe Biden, right? And that's what Devon Archer testified under oath Monday behind closed doors. According to Devon Archer, Hunter was trying to create the illusion of access to the vice president of the United States. But Devon Archer said Joe Biden never once conducted business on those phone calls, or for that matter, really knew who he was talking with other than his son, Hunter. The Republicans will spin this because they must. The truth is, there's no crime. But they have to convince voters there's something there because special counsel Jack Smith's noose is tightening every day around Donald Trump's neck. And the only way Donald Trump stays out of prison is by getting reelected. And the only way Trump can get reelected is if low information voters are convinced both sides are corrupt. That is the job right now of Jim Jordan and James Comer, to convince voters that Biden is just as corrupt as Donald Trump. And that's not true. That is just not true. What is true, however, is that Joe Biden has a deeply troubled son who has broken the law. When you owe the IRS $1 million, which Hunter did, when you lie on filling out an application for a gun permit and say you're not doing crack, not good. Not good. There's also something unseemly about John Kerry's stepson from Yale hooking up with Devon Archer from Yale and Hunter Biden from Yale Law, creating an investment firm. It's unseemly. Like I said, it stinks to high heaven. It's everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party leadership, but it's not a crime. Here's the thing about Devon Archer, John Kerry's stepson, and Hunter Biden, the Yale triad. I would call them triangle. Let's call them the Yale triangle. Their success, the success of their firm, was predicated on the very same thing the Giuliani, Jim Jordan, James Comer investigation of Hunter Biden is predicated upon: smoke and mirrors. This is all about smoke and mirrors. The Yale boys built their business on smoke and mirrors, and the investigation of Hunter Biden is just smoke and mirrors. You don't have to prove Joe Biden is corrupt. You just need enough smoke and mirrors to convince the American people something doesn't seem right. And that's what Hunter, John Kerry's stepson, and Devon Archer, the Yale triangle, based their business on: smoke and mirrors. Hey, we all went to Yale. My dad's a vice president. My stepfather's John Kerry, and he was the Democratic nominee for president in 2004. We have just enough smoke and mirrors to create the illusion that the three of us have access to high-level government officials, when in fact we really don't. They are, Hunter Biden is Jackie Jr. in The Sopranos. Jackie Jr. preyed on idiots who automatically assumed, because of who Jackie Jr.'s father was, that he's connected. But he wasn't. There are enough idiots who want to believe that Hunter Biden is connected. They want to believe that. They want to believe that John Kerry's stepson is connected. They're idiots. They're not connected to anybody. Hunter Biden is Jackie Jr. from The Sopranos. If you're trying to squeeze money out of Burisma, headquartered in one of the most corrupt countries in the world, Ukraine, those gangsters in charge of Burisma, because they're idiots, they automatically assume that the American government is just as corrupt as Ukraine's. And it's not. They're going to assume that if you put Hunter Biden on the board of directors of Burisma, he's going to give you access not just to Joe Biden, but the entire American government, because that's how Ukraine works. That's how Russia works. But he's not going to do anything for you other than provide window dressing, which has some value. There's a lot to be said for window dressing. If you say, we have the vice president of America's son sitting on our board, that provides a security blanket to idiot investors who don't know any better. They think, foreign investors who are idiots. The vice president's son is on the board of Burisma. They must have connections. This is window dressing. It's how corporate America operates. Before he was Donald Trump's defense secretary, General James Mattis served on the board of directors of Theranos. Remember that company? Elizabeth Holmes, bogus blood testing company. She's now in prison. It's a complete fraud. But General James Mattis sat on the board of directors. The head of Bechtel sat on the board of directors. They don't know anything. What does James Mattis know about blood testing? He's a former general. He knows how to spill blood, but he doesn't know what to do with it, can't test it. But it makes investors feel safe. Henry Kissinger sits on the boards of these big companies. It's just window dressing. Hunter Biden can't do anything for Burisma. He can't provide access to his dad because it's against the law. And most importantly, Hunter Biden's too stupid to get away with it. It's against the law, and Hunter Biden is a mediocrity who could never have gotten away with it. All he could do with Burisma was convince corrupt gangsters from Ukraine that he's as corrupt as they are. Like Jackie Jr. from The Sopranos. So they pay him a lot of money. He takes the money and does nothing for Burisma, the same way General James Mattis did nothing for Theranos. The real crime in all this is that Hunter Biden and Devon Archer ripped off those Burisma gangsters. If anything, Hunter Biden should be charged with stealing money from Burisma, taking money on false pretenses. The real victim in all this is Burisma. They fell for Hunter's scam. They fell for it. He convinced innocent, unsuspecting Ukrainian gangsters that he could do something for them. Pay me. I went to Yale Law. My partner's from Yale. And our dads are high-level government officials. We're connected. No, we're not. They don't know people. Because the people they know all know that they're idiots, and they want nothing to do with them. Nothing. Do you honestly think anyone with real influence and power in America who could actually do something for Burisma is going to do it through Joe Biden's idiot, crack addict, alcoholic son? No. Unsuspecting Ukrainians they bought the lie that Hunter could connect them. And like I said, they're the real victims. And Hunter Biden, he owes the United States government $1 million. He paid that back. I think he should pay Burisma back because he didn't do anything criminal for them. Nothing. Look, Hunter Biden has had a tough life. Tougher than some, but not most. There has been tragedy, no question. His life has been tougher than some, but not most. And Joe Biden made it tougher for Hunter by constantly greasing the chute for him. That makes your son less of a man. I don't know where we lost the narrative on how to raise sons and daughters in America. When you pull strings for a child, it weakens them. It's why 99% of children born into wealth end up as abject failures. They get everything handed to them, and they don't know what it means to have to work hard because your life depends upon it. Those are the people I want working for me, the people who work hard because their life depends upon it. You want the person who has no options other than working their ass off. I keep saying this. Why would you hire somebody who went to Yale Law School or Harvard or is the son of a vice president or the son of a hedge fund manager? They're worthless pieces of shit. They really are. They're cursed. They're cursed. They have a safety net. They don't know what it means to be terrified. And that disconnects them from at least half the people who live in this country. And that's sinful to do that to your children, to make them so out of touch with normal people in America. When did we forget this? When did we forget this? It has been reported that Hunter was about to get rejected from Yale Law School. His father, Joe Biden, at the time was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. This was 1994, and Hunter was about to get rejected from Yale Law School, so Joe picked up the phone and called the President of the United States, who was Bill Clinton at the time, an esteemed graduate of Yale Law. And it has been reported that Bill Clinton, because he had nothing better to do, got on the phone inside the Oval Office, called the dean of Yale Law School, Guido Calabresi, and asked him to accept Hunter Biden into Yale Law School. It's not illegal. It's unseemly, unfair to more deserving students, and unfair to Hunter. When did we lose the narrative on why this is unfair to Hunter? Nothing good comes from having the President of the United States call your son and try to grease the chute so he gets into Yale Law. When you pull strings, you weaken your child. When you pull strings, you weaken your child. Forget that it's undemocratic. It's unfair to your child. It weakens your child. When did Americans forget that? Somewhere along the line, we forgot that. Nepo babies. You have all these defensive Nepo babies now in Hollywood who get very defensive. You don't know how rough I had it. Yeah. Change your last name. Change your last name, Nepo baby. And don't tell anybody who your parents are. Otherwise, you're a Nepo baby. So Guido Calabresi, by the way, and that's the truth. It's the uncomfortable truth that because the narrative is controlled by Nepo babies or their parents in the media, it's unfair. It's unfair to call out Nepo babies. If you're a Nepo baby and you have the same last name as your successful parents, you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. You didn't make it on your own. That goes against the entire American dream of hard work, self-sufficiency, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. In America, you're supposed to be ashamed of inherited wealth. You're supposed to be embarrassed. You didn't make it on your own. You're a piece of shit. Unless you're Teddy Kennedy, who acknowledges that he didn't make it on his own and dedicates the rest of his life to giving everyone else the same leg up that he was born with. Okay? But if you're just some actor in some Nepo baby actor in Hollywood, reading for parts and upset because somebody's calling you a Nepo baby, to the core of my very being, let me assure you that I know a couple of things to be true about veganism. I know that. I know that if you're a Nepo baby and you haven't changed your last name and you're not trying to level the playing field for everybody else, you're an un-American piece of shit. Okay? And you should have low self-esteem, and you should feel bad about yourself, Nepo baby. Okay? You're a piece of shit. And nobody should hire Nepo babies. Nobody. Nobody should hire the children of the wealthy. Nobody. They don't deserve a job. They have inheritances. They've had legs up. Their parents have made the playing field unlevel. Why would you hire a Nepo baby? The only thing you should do with a Nepo baby is say you should have been aborted. You're a piece of shit. You come from shit. Your parents are shit. You're shit. And you're un-American. And if you think I mean that to the core of my very being. If you want to know who I am, that's what I believe. And I'm right. I'm right about veganism, and I'm right about Nepo babies. Anyway, Guido Calabresi, dean of Yale Law School, gets a call from Bill Clinton in 1994 because the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, has nothing better to do than pick up a phone and try to get Hunter Biden into Yale Law School. And Guido Calabresi, dean of Yale Law School, reportedly told Bill Clinton, I love hearing from you, but it would be immoral to intervene. But he was talking to Bill Clinton, who doesn't understand the term immoral. So he kept pushing. Bill kept pushing harder. And so Guido Calabresi, dean of Yale Law, said, okay, I'll tell you what. You say Hunter Biden's such a great kid, I'll meet with him. So Hunter Biden, who was on the verge of getting rejected from Yale Law, had a meeting with the dean of Yale Law, like all of us do when we can't get into Yale Law School, right? This happens for all of us. It looks like I'm not going to get into Yale Law. The president of the United States picks up the phone and calls the dean and sets up a meeting for us. That happens. Anybody can just do that. That's what the president is there for, to get you into Yale Law. So there was a meeting between the dean of Yale Law School and Hunter, and it has been reported that the dean of Yale Law School told Hunter Biden, look, you're not getting in this year. Go to Georgetown and then wait a year, and let's see if you can transfer into Yale when there's an opening. I think you'll have an easier chance getting in. Sure enough, less than a year later, Hunter got into Yale Law School. And somehow, miraculously, Guido Calabresi, the dean of Yale Law, at the same exact time, he got to fulfill his lifetime dream of serving on the 2nd District Court after Bill Clinton nominated him, and the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee at the time, Joe Biden, got him right through, right? You got to get confirmed first by the Senate Judiciary Committee and then the entire Senate. And the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Joe Biden, helped Guido Calabresi become a federal judge. So let me ask you a question. And I'm not picking on Hunter Biden because I think he's the victim in all this. Would you hire Hunter Biden? Think about this for a second. Knowing what you know now, he comes to you as a Yale Law School graduate. Now you find out how he got into Yale. Right? It's one of the most selective schools, we're told, in America. But now we're finding out it's not just Hunter Biden. There's been all this reporting in the past week. We're finding out about these elite private colleges, aren't we? Right? We're finding out that these elite private colleges aren't, it's not a meritocracy. They're called elite private colleges because they help the elite. We're discovering that it's all about legacy admissions and how wealthy your parents are. It's the illusion of a meritocracy, the smoke and mirrors of a meritocracy, but it's really for rich kids. It really is. And the occasional minority, the occasional poor kid who they let in, right, to make it look like a meritocracy. Ask Clarence Thomas about his experience at Yale Law School and how that turned him off affirmative action and made him so angry even to this day. So I'm going to ask you again. I would hire Clarence Thomas, but would you hire Hunter Biden? Would you hire John Kerry's stepson? He went to Yale. How'd he get in? Right? They kept asking Clarence Thomas how he got into Yale. Nobody asked Hunter Biden how he got into Yale. That's the racism that Clarence Thomas confronted. Nobody thought Hunter Biden was unqualified for Yale, or Brett Kavanaugh. Nobody said Brett Kavanaugh was ill-equipped for Yale, even though everything was handed to him. Went to a $60,000 a year private school, never had to work a day in his life. All he had to do was read. Nobody ever questioned his qualifications, right? These are mediocrities. I wouldn't hire them. And that they would allow their parents to do that for them speaks volumes to their lack of character. And we see this with Devon Archer, right? Who testified before the Republican House Oversight Committee today. They lack character. Devon Archer, Hunter's partner, his business partner, ended up going to prison for ripping off a Native American tribe. Why do you rip off an Native American tribe? Because you were raised to take shortcuts to make millions of dollars. We'll take some shortcuts to get you into Yale, because that's what these people do. They're entitled. They take shortcuts. Can't get into Yale Law School? Call the President of the United States. He'll make a call. They don't work hard. They don't study. They trade on their family connections, their connections they make at elite private schools. All of them, all of these connections make them dumber and more dishonest and less likely to perform the job you pay them to do. Hunter and Devon Archer picked up work with Burisma because American businesses, well, they were on to them. They knew that they were mediocrities. So they got to sit on the board of a Ukrainian gas company because those Ukrainian gangsters were too naive to realize the son of a vice president cannot pull strings for you. So it's a hoax. Burisma is a hoax. Hunter didn't break the law. He did not break the law. Joe Biden isn't running a crime family because he and his family are too stupid and lazy to pull something like that off. But it is in the best interests of the Republicans to make the Bidens look just as corrupt as Trump. Like I said, this is all political. Burisma is political, nothing criminal. This is all about getting Trump elected president again so he stays out of prison. That's all it is. But like I said, it speaks volumes to how immoral, not illegal, how immoral our system is. It's smoke and mirrors for the wealthy and the connected. The rest of us have to work hard, but the elite and the children of the elite, they rely on smoke and mirrors. You don't have to be talented or a hard worker if you're a Nepo baby. You just have your parents pull some strings, and those strings will provide just enough smoke and mirrors to create the illusion that you're a person of substance. And after a while, you begin to believe you're a person of substance. Again, my heart goes out to Hunter Biden. He's had a tragic life, but his father did him no favors by doing all those favors for him. There are many reasons people become addicts. I wouldn't dare try to figure out why Hunter has the problems he does. There are many reasons people have low self-esteem. I do know when you're dealing with a drug addict, there's only one answer, and that is cut them off. No money, no favors, no strings getting pulled. Unconditional love that brings them to rehab. I wouldn't presume to know what's going on with Hunter or Joe. But I do know this: success for your children isn't who they know. Success for your children isn't who they meet in elite schools. Success for your children isn't the connections they make for life. Success for your children is providing them substance, a core sense of who they are, and most importantly, what is right and what is wrong. And none of this, none of our time is worth anything unless it's spent helping others, especially the least among us. Sadly, because I am going to vote for Joe Biden, I have no choice, I don't get those values off the Biden family, other than the occasional trip to the soup kitchen on Thanksgiving. Sadly, I don't get it from a lot of high-profile Democrats who control the party. The Democratic Party, I have no choice. I'm going to vote for the Democrats. Biden is better than Trump because the Republican Party are criminal and they're fascists. But the Democratic Party, at the tippy top, is run by immoral posers. The Pelosi's, used to be the Pelosi's, the Schumers, who make their idiot kids, they make sure that their idiot kids all benefit from their connections. Check out Chuck Schumer's kids working for Amazon and Facebook, and the son-in-law working for one of the big equity. I think it's Blackstone. And because it's legal, you see, the Republicans are fascists and criminals. The Democrats are just hypocrites who aren't really breaking the law. But what they do is they give permission to charlatans like Jimmy Dore and Joe Rogan to get away with saying both parties are corrupt. No, they're not both corrupt. Democrats are just hypocrites. They're not criminals, they're hypocrites. Republicans are criminals, Democrats are hypocrites. Trump, he is a criminal. Joe Biden is a hypocrite. Being a criminal is worse than being a hypocrite. But a party of hypocrites makes it easy to equate them with a party of criminals. Okay? So, let's talk about the Democratic Party before I wrap it up. I'm a Democrat. I would never vote for anybody in the Republican Party. But let me ask you, as we're moving forward, why would you vote for any politician, any Democrat, who sends their child to private school? Why would you vote for any Democratic politician who graduated from an elite private school? And I'm not just talking about colleges, okay? I'm talking about middle schools and high schools where the price tag for these sloth farms is anywhere between $25,000 and $60,000 a year, plus a donation. Then they hit you up for a donation. Why would you vote for a Democrat who spends $50,000 a year to send their idiot kid to a private school, fully aware of what $50,000 would mean for an entire public school, especially one in the inner city? When you spend $50 grand on your own child's education, you're saying, especially to your own kid, that my child's education is worth more than everybody else's. That's anti-democratic. It's un-American. When you spend $50 grand on your own child's education, you're saying, I care more about my child than everybody else's. You're saying, I don't have faith in my kid. I need to give my kid an advantage, a leg up. You're saying, I don't believe in a level playing field. I don't trust my kid to make it on their own. Why would you do that? Especially if you're a Democrat, right? A liberal with your heart in the right place. You would do that because you're an effing hypocrite. Not a criminal, just a hypocrite. Why would you spend $50,000 a year to send your kid to a private school, knowing what $50,000 could do for an entire school, an entire public school in Compton? Why would you do that? Why would you do that to our country and to your child? Why would you turn your child into a hothouse flower who has no idea what the world is really like, and spare me your emails telling me that you went to a private school and you spent the summer building up extracurricular activities on a farm in Mexico, learning about the plight of migrant workers in order to prove to the admissions board at Middlebury College that you're a righteous person. You're full of shit, okay? I'm not going to read any comments from any Nepo babies who went to a private school and said, you wouldn't believe the public service that's instilled in us at Dalton. Go F yourself. $50,000. Your parents spend $50,000 a year to send you to Dalton, where Jeffrey Epstein used to teach. Your little extracurricular activities at an Indian reservation for 3 weeks to get you into Harvard. That public service you're talking about, the $50,000 would help the Native Americans more than your bullshit public service. Okay? Go F yourself if you went to a private school. Go F yourself if you spend $50,000 to send your kid to a private school. Unfortunately, I'm a Democrat. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. But this is who runs the Democratic Party. And this is why our party is struggling. It's why we don't have a majority in the House. It's why, even though Donald Trump is on like his 5th set of indictments, some polls show him winning next November. Why is that? Because Rudy Giuliani, Jim Jordan, Steve Bannon, the Trumps, they know that the Democratic Party, the leadership, has no idea what life is like for the 100 million Americans who could vote but don't vote. That's what the Republicans know. They know that the leadership of the Democratic Party has no idea what it's like to be the people the Democratic Party is supposed to represent. The Democratic Party, the leadership, they'll read books about poverty, but they've never smelled it. And if they did smell it, they never want to smell it again. Again, I'm talking about the leadership of the Democratic Party, not Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush, who Howie Klein had to do a fundraiser for because she needs extra security. I'm not talking about Cori Bush, who represents the people of St. Louis. Cori Bush, Democrat, knows what it's like to be alone and scared, homeless, sleeping in her car with her small children. Her voice is the voice of my Democratic Party, okay? Congresswoman Cori Bush, she's going to save us. Not Hakeem Jeffries, not Ro Khanna, What is he worth? Ro Khanna, $100 million? Not any of these millionaire corporate Democrats who think there are two types of people. I always bring this up. They think there are two types of people, those who wait and those who are waited upon. Ask yourself, do you think there are two types of people? Do you think there are those who wait and those who are waited upon? If you do, get out of the Democratic Party. What do you believe? Do you believe there are two types of people? It sure feels like the Democratic leadership thinks there are two types of people. When you send your kids to elite private schools while quietly amassing millions and millions of dollars, are you serving or are you being served? I don't want my Democratic Party run by people who have servants. Our climate czar, John Kerry, can't keep his story straight when it comes to all his private jets. Can't remember. He flies commercial, but he doesn't know if the private jet's owned by his wife, Teresa, whether or not they lease them, and he has no idea how many private jets his family owns. And he's our climate czar. Okay? Al Gore, Harvard, he was right about climate change. Give him credit. But 10 years ago, Al Gore sold Current TV, a liberal news network that he founded. He sold it to Qatar. He took $500 million in petrodollars. Took the money from Qatar. Those are petrodollars, oil money. And he took about $400 million to destroy one of the last remaining left-of-center political news networks on TV, Current TV. He's been sitting on the board of Apple forever. Apple continues to rely on slave labor, or, well, you know, they have to put nets around the Foxconn factories to catch the women who jump. And more importantly, Apple, for decades, I mean, they're getting better, but they've been one of the world's leading producers of greenhouse gases. And if Al Gore isn't on the board of directors of Apple anymore, he certainly owns a lot of stock in that company. And not one of our greenest. It's getting there, but not one of our greenest. Again, nothing criminal. Not like the Trumps, okay? Nothing criminal here. Just hypocrisy. It would have been better if Al Gore were president than George W. Bush, because George W. Bush is a war criminal who should be frog-marched before The Hague, okay? Al Gore is not a criminal. He's just a hypocrite, and I'll vote for the hypocrite over the criminal. That's why I'm a Democrat. It's run by hypocrites, not criminals, okay? But this is my Democrat, Cori Bush. Very few people come close to Cori Bush. If you're donating money to the Democrats, why would you give it to anyone other than Cori Bush, who needs extra money for security? Now, this entire Burisma hoax is politics. There's nothing criminal. The Republicans will never expose the Biden crime family because there is no Biden crime family. There's a Trump crime family. The Republicans with Burisma, they're just throwing all this dirt into the eyes of the voters to convince them, to make them wonder, to make them think there's possibly some corruption there with Joe Biden and Hunter. They won't succeed in getting a criminal conviction, but they will expose the hypocrisy in the Democratic Party. And that's why Republicans, despite being so unlikable, that's why they are able to have so much power. Because Democrats are hypocrites, not criminals, hypocrites. And in politics, being a hypocrite is almost as criminal as being a criminal. The people in charge of the Democratic Party, the people in charge, not Cori Bush, not Ted Lieu, right? There are good people in the Democratic Party. I'm talking about the problem is with the leadership. Their values, right, from the Clintons, sadly, the Obamas, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, the Bidens, their values stink to high heaven. Watch how they spend their time. Their values stink to high heaven. And if we succumb to the fascists in the Republican Party, it will be because too many Americans have lost faith in the Democrats who are supposed to protect us. Trump is a fascist. He's a criminal. The Republicans are fascists, but the Democrats are elitists. They're run by millionaires who think they're all immune to fascism. They're not. They're not as scared as the rest. The people at the top of the Democratic Party are all millionaires and don't think they're going to suffer too much if we go off the cliff and become fascists. And the reason America is teetering on the brink of fascism is because we're relying on elitists to protect us, and they can't. The rich won't save us. They never do. The pampered elitists from Ivy League colleges who think their hearts are in the right place, they won't save us. The oil companies, they can't stop climate catastrophe. The millionaires and the billionaires, they can't solve income inequality. The people who own vacation homes can't solve homelessness. Business owners can't solve the rapidly declining power of unions in America. And the graduates of elite private schools that cost as much as $50,000 a year cannot solve America's education crisis. Do not vote for pampered elitists. We need to purge the Democratic Party of pampered elitists. Again, the Republicans are criminal and they're fascists. The Democrats are the party of hypocrites. They're run by hypocrites. And pampered elitists, the pampered elitists who run the Democratic Party, they lack the street smarts to fight fascism. Best case scenario, and I am optimistic, believe it or not, I'm optimistic. This is the best case scenario. Jack Smith, special counsel, locks Trump up, and Biden gets reelected. I'm hopeful. I think that's gonna happen. But the threat of fascism doesn't disappear with the erasure of Trump. Look at Ron DeSantis. He's the real fascist, more so than Trump. The only way to rid this nation of the threat from fascists is to rid the Democratic Party of elitists. Cori Bush and the Democrats like Cori Bush, that's how you defeat fascism. This is the story we should be talking about. Nearly 4 million people in America have been cut from Medicaid in the past month. I don't see anybody talking about that. Nobody's talking about Medicare for all, and nobody's talking about climate change, the real solution to climate change. Very few people are talking about the real solution to climate change. Bernie is. Today, a couple of senators wrote a letter, including Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, urging Merrick Garland over at the Department of Justice to bring lawsuits against the fossil fuel industry for covering up all the science on climate change. You can go back to the 50s and find documents proving that Exxon knew they were broiling and boiling the planet and it was going to get worse. And instead of doing anything about it, they paid think tanks to produce professors and scientists who deny climate change. We're on the brink of fascism because we're on the brink of something far worse, the complete and utter destruction of our planet. There are three things that we need to be talking about: income inequality, destroying the billionaires, outlawing billionaires, outlawing fossil fuels, and locking up the fossil fuel executives, putting them in prison for lying about the damage they knew they were doing to the planet, and Medicare for all, and locking up Sir Andrew Whitty, the serial killer, the CEO of United Healthcare. That's what a Democratic Party has to stand for. Not working with these people, not working with the oil companies to solve climate change, not working with the gun manufacturers to solve school shootings, not working with big pharma the way Obama did with Obamacare, not working with the health insurance companies the way Obama did with Obamacare, not working with the landlords to solve homelessness. Start locking them up, because those are the real crimes that are being committed. And if we don't do that, if we don't have a Democratic Party willing to lock up these corporate murderers, we'll teeter and then finally succumb to fascism. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. Thank you to the moderators in the chat room for keeping the conversation honest. Not interested in debating some core tenets. There's some comments I delete. If you're going to defend Trump, the Republicans, I'm just going to delete it. Not interested in what garbage people have to say. Just, you're stupid and you cannot reason with stupid people. There are 100 million Americans who don't vote, who could vote. Those are the people we have to reason with. But the MAGA idiots, you're garbage. You're garbage, and you're not welcome here. Your comments are not welcome here. Please leave a comment. I read all your comments. You know I do if you're a regular listener to the show. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm starting to feel better. Office hours and my newsletter in a couple weeks when I'm up to it. Once again, thank you all it's a privilege to talk to you, so thank you. Remember to stay strong and protect the weak.